give me a nudge if I need to do a wrap up.
Yes. The usually we give the last maybe 2-3 minutes for any questions.
Okay.
And oftentimes there are some and sometimes not.
Understood.
Yay.
Hello, ladies.
Hi, everyone. Oh, I'm so excited to see our group tonight. So before we get started, I would just like everyone to check their microphone and make sure they're muted, please. So double check that everyone's muted. We have a great group for tonight. And it's 4:30, so we're going to get started. Welcome to our second lead mentor chat for the 2021-22 school year. And as always, it's so exciting to see all of you. And I see your cameras, I see your faces. It's so nice. It's just, I'm used to connecting with everyone face to face. So at least I get to see a little snippet of all of you. And thank you again for all the work you're doing at your schools. I've been in touch with many of you for different reasons. And please keep the questions coming. Lisa Stanley and Bridget and I are here to support you. So if you need our help, just please continue to email. I also put myself out there. If any of you lead mentors need any type of help in your building, if you need me to come there and support you in any way, just let me know. I'll be very happy to do that. So for this evening, I would like to introduce our guest speaker. And we have Dr. Danielle McKinnon with us. She is our Director of Equity and Diversity, and she has an amazing presentation for us all tonight. I got a sneak peek at the slides, and I so enjoyed looking at them. And every time I speak with her, we meet together, I learn so much, and I knew that all of you would be in for a real treat tonight in learning about where we are in our district as of right now currently with equity and diversity. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. McKinnon, and we'll leave a few minutes at the end like we always do, maybe 3-4 minutes for any questions. But I'd also like you to feel free to use the chat tonight. I'll be monitoring the chat, and throughout the presentation, she may say any questions, and be brave and speak up. So we have a great group, and thank you for your time tonight. And it's all yours, Dr. McKinnon.
Thank you so much, Linda. I appreciate that introduction. And thank you all so much for allowing me an opportunity to spend with you all this evening. Again, Danielle McKinnon, and I'm very proud to serve in this new role here within our district of equity and diversity. I do say office of, but I'm actually essentially a team of one, right? So it's always nice to find a way to really feel like I'm making an impact. So I thought adding office of at the beginning could do so. But I get the very fortunate opportunity to work with so many people across the district that I feel like I'm not alone so much. So whether it's resource teachers or opportunities like this, you all assist me in being able to do my work the best way that I can, and I hope that I can do the same for you all. So let's get started in this short opportunity that we have together this afternoon. And I also know that you'll have this recording, so feel free to reference back, and Linda knows I'm an open door, so you are more than welcome to always reach out. No question is a dumb question, if you will. Every question is important to me, every comment, every opportunity to connect. So I greatly embrace those opportunities. So I do want to just share, Linda asked me this shortly before we began, so I thought it'd be a nice resource if you're not aware. One of the things Microsoft Office does within PowerPoint now is they provide themed, colored theme slides, if you will, that are specific to national observances throughout the year. So the one that I've chosen for this evening is specific, their Hispanic Heritage Month background theme. Just the beautiful colors and the richness of this, which really speaks to the vibrancy of Hispanic culture. There's also Italian American Heritage Month, Jewish. It's just so many. So if you're looking for ways to spice up your PowerPoints and or learn how to maybe do presentations as it pertains to cultural observances, check that out when you're starting a new PowerPoint. So the Office of Equity and Diversity, again, brand new role here within the district. I've now served in this role next week, I think it is, or towards the end of this month, I'll actually make a year for me. And again, a year also for our district. And it was designed in a way to really uphold what a vision looked like of serving every student with excellence as a standard, with an emphasis really on every. When we're thinking about each student that may or may not have the access and the resources, or maybe feel a meaningful connection or a sense of belonging as we are serving them to reach their academic and personal goals. So we're doing that in ways where we're trying to cultivate a culturally inclusive climate of really embracing belonging and dignity, and really creating a sense of understanding that it is not traditionally where in order to belong, you have to first achieve, but really trying to change the mindset to understand that you want to first feel like you belong, and then that allows you to feel like you can achieve. So it's going to take a lot of work, a true paradigm shift, a culture shift for our entire district in doing so. And I have the great privilege and honor to work interdepartmentally across the entire district to help with not only existing relationships that we have, but also leverage some new relationships to ensure that we are serving every stakeholder, including yourselves, serving every stakeholder where excellence is our standard, and we're doing so in a way where we're empowering each of you to be the best that you can. So I like to start any opportunity where I'm talking about equity and diversity, especially from an educational standpoint, with really understanding our why. And our why, as we know, is really thinking about who we serve, right? And why we are serving them. So I wanted to share some data. Data for me really drives the foundation for the work that we're doing moving forward. And I hope that you all take that same mindset as well in the work that you all are doing every day as you're serving our students on the front lines, if you will. So if you haven't had an opportunity, you may have seen at least this slide from our superintendent report where Dr. Mullins shared this. I want to say that was back in August or so. But this is just more of a recent, at least the beginning of this academic year, student demographics and who we're serving. So you'll see the breakdown here, the pie chart here to your left. Is breakdown by ethnicity. Now, I do want to be clear that there are additional races and ethnicities represented, but they did not make this particular pie chart, if you will, because they were less than the 3%. But they are definitely well represented, and we want to make sure that we respect that. You'll also see here that we're almost neck to neck with free and reduced lunch on the students that we are serving. Definitely seeing that we have a little bit more now of free and reduced lunch students. Our English limited proficiency and or our students that have where English is not their native language, you'll see that we're serving about 4% of those students. And then our ESC or exceptional students, we have about 19% of the students that we are serving. This may be hot off the press for some. This is data as it pertains to the past 3 years where we have reported state testing and achievement levels. So you'll see about 4 slides here, and they're broken down by each of the academic areas. So for ELA achievement grades 3 through 10, you'll see a breakdown here of the 3 ethnicities or races represented that are the majority that we do have here within the district. So you'll see for our African American Black students, where in from 2018 to 2019, where we saw just a slight increase in the level 3 and above achievement that we were seeing with some of the strategies that were put into place here within the district. And then, of course, you know, in 2020, we did not have a school grade just because of pandemic and that reporting, but you'll see that we've experienced a decline, and you'll see that across the board. with some of the other races and ethnicities as well. Same with our students that are white. You know, we saw even an increase there, and unfortunately, because of pandemic and some of the things that are also not within our control, we saw a decline there. The biggest thing I want you to take away from this, and you'll see it in the same slides as you'll see a similar pattern, is that we have a gap in achievement here. This is really what is helping to drive our why, especially as we're thinking about equity, where we are seeing that our students of color are not performing as well as our students who are not. Same with math achievement. You'll see grades 3 through 8, as well as algebra and geometry where testing is done. You'll see where we attempted to try to make some strides pre-pandemic. And then, of course, we saw a fall after pandemic. But again, you'll continue to see a similar trend where there is a gap in achievement. Science achievement, grades 5, 8, as well as biology. Again, similar trends that you'll see here. And then the last one that I have here is social studies, which is encompassed of both civics as well as U.S. history. One thing that I can definitely appreciate from this one is that every ethnicity breakdown or subgroup, they all are doing much better than they were in some of the other areas that I showed prior. But again, you'll continue to see the trend of there being this gap in achievement by our subgroups. As well as that decline that we're seeing after the pandemic, where we were attempting to make some strides prior. I also want to share this one with you. I like this one because it helps to give a breakdown by subgroups or demographics and how we are serving our students and how they are achieving essentially. So you'll see here, of course, it's 17, 18, as well as a comparison to where we were 18, 19. But again, with the demographics, you'll see here that, for example, our Hispanic students we had been serving, their achievement has been going to a point where they were at a B, and that had been consistent in comparison to some of our other subgroups where they were lower and or much higher. So it just shows you by this breakdown that not every one of our subgroups are performing at a similar level or a desirable level where we would like them to be. Same with looking at our students with disabilities, where again, pre-pandemic, we were seeing that there was an improvement in achievement for those students, but at the same time, it's still much lower than we would like it to be. Same with our students where English is a second language, our students that are categorized as foster students, as well as homeless students, and even our economically disadvantaged. I also want to show another one to you, our suspension rates. When we're thinking about discipline, and one of the things that has been apparent for our district is that there's disproportionality in how our discipline rates are based on subgroups as well. So if you have an understanding of this, essentially when the number is higher, that means that that particular subgroup has a higher chance of being, or a higher rate of being suspended versus other subgroups. So you'll see the data here shows from 2019-20 as well as 2020 through 2021. And in some ways, we definitely saw a decline from the previous academic year to where we are now. But when you look at the subgroups and start to take a glance and look at a comparison between some of the other subgroups, you'll see that our highest continue to remain our free and reduced lunch students, as well as our African American and Black students, and as well as our ESE students. So again, it's these things that stand out that allow us to understand that there's something that we notice is definitely not in proportionality where it should be. And so these are opportunities for us to think about ways in better serving these subgroups of students. One of the things that I'm also fortunate to work with, even though I technically fall under leading and learning, again, I have a role where it's interdepartmental, and I get to be a part of finding ways to improve also our employment equity. And not only how we are recruiting or attracting a diverse representation of potential employees, but also how we're serving them, how we're creating a culture of engagement and inclusion with those that we are working with. So one of the things that my office is responsible for now is our Florida Educational Ethics Act report, which is done on an annual basis to really look at how we are being compliant with state and federal regulations as it pertains to areas of gender equity, as well as how we are adhering to non-discrimination, career in tech, as well as athletics, gender equity in athletics, and it is also inclusive of employment equity. So I wanted to share this one with you as well, and I also shared a little snapshot of the representation across our county from the 2020 census population. And so you'll see here where for the student demographics that we have as it pertains to our top three ethnicity subgroups, as well as by gender, both female and male. And again, this is by state requirements. You'll see where there are opportunities where we can do better in how we are diversifying our roles across our district. For example, we have, from student demographics, we have about 51% of our students are male. But you'll see that those that teachers like yourselves that have an opportunity for a very consistent presence with your students, we only have about 19% of our teachers that are male. So these are ways where we can identify opportunities where we can be more intentional and more meaningful in how we are recruiting those to be more representative of our student population as well. I like colors, so this is another way of essentially looking at the data that I just shared. But you can actually see where it's done in a color grouping way. So you'll see in the green where that actually is representative of our white subgroup. And you'll see that it's pretty consistent that we are well above the majority. Whereas in blue, you'll see our Black or African American representation from students all the way through district administration. Same in the yellow, Hispanic, Latino, and you'll see in the others the different colors and representatives of subgroups by ethnicity. The whole point I want you to see in this trend here is how it just gets smaller in representation when we get to our minorities and Black, Indigenous, or people of color. So that's a lot of why. What will we do? What are we trying to do? And I thought it'd be a great opportunity to maybe show with you, some of you, maybe an image that you've already seen before, and maybe for some of you, you haven't, or maybe you've seen it before and it still doesn't necessarily make sense to you. So I thought it'd be a great way to get you to get a better understanding of what equity means and why that's something we are not only working towards, but also trying to advance beyond that. So you'll see in this, again, very popular image, if you will, you'll see equality is represented by everyone just getting equal, right? It's the same. Everybody having an opportunity to essentially have a box to be able to watch a soccer match over a fence, right? So oftentimes equality is perceived as fair. But when you think about it, especially when you have a visual like this, or maybe it's your own personal experience, you then begin to question, well, is it essentially fair? Because even everybody getting the same, which is essentially the one box, not everybody can still see, right, this match. And or maybe they cannot see as well as others. So then we get into equity, right? Which is not just essentially a buzzword. It's really something that we want to focus on, not only being fair, but really focusing on intentional and meaningful need-based assessment on where access is needed to be able to achieve the same outcome. So now at this point, there's somebody who may not necessarily have needed a box, but then there's also someone who may have needed maybe more than one box to be able to have the same outcome, which in this example is being able to see the soccer match. So then how does systemic change come in? Or sometimes it may be referred to in some ways as social justice. But systemic change is really what I want us to focus on specifically within our institution, right? It's bringing another mindset to it and really being more intentional of thinking about being more comprehensive or holistic in the changes that are necessary across an entire system when you're thinking about the different relationships and things that are dependent upon that system. So for a perfect example, and maybe you've seen this image where there's no fence, right? I know there's different versions of this out there, but I like this one in particular because one of the things to understand is, yes, you can essentially take away the fence, right? And nobody needs a box. But when you think about the value and how important communication is, communication allows you, and diversity in thought in communication. What it does is it allows you to see different perspectives, right? So maybe it's not just taking away the fence everybody now can see. Maybe the fence serves a purpose, right? Maybe the fence allows those in the game or that ball that can go anywhere in the game to not hurt somebody who is spectating or in the stands, right? Maybe it allows for a certain boundary that's necessary for them to know where they're now not, out of bounds. Or I don't play soccer, so I'm assuming it's similar to football from that sense that, there's an out of bounds place, right? So I think it's important that you, when you're thinking about systemic change, you're also being respectful and intentional of the diversity of thought and diversity of perspective to try to achieve the same outcome. So again, it's a paradigm shift. It's a mindset change to really allow our district to allow DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion concepts to be able to drive our culture. So I have here just a kind of where we are, where we have been, and where we really should go, right? Maybe we have been at a state where we have been tolerable, right? We are accepting of people who may be different than us in a lot of different ways. But what we really want to get to is showing that we value the differences, right? Both in how we learn from one another, as well as how we can apply that asset mindset to even maybe how we're teaching, right? And embracing those differences. One of the things I learned early on, and I'm always going to be in a listening and learning mode, especially in this role, but the things I learned early on is our district has really been at a place where we have focused on compliance, right? And being compliant, whether it's federal, state regulations, whatever it may be. But when it comes to equity, we really just focused on hitting the minimum, doing what's necessary to not be in the red zone, if you will. And we really want to get to a place where we're committed to equity. Equity is something that is a part of our bloodstream, if you will, right? It's a part of our everyday work. We want to get past a place of just being conforming, right? And just doing what we're supposed to do because it's been the traditional practice, right? And really get into a place where we're transforming thought, transforming practices to be our best at serving every student with excellence as a standard. School autonomy. This is an interesting one because each school is so unique and should be for the population that you serve, the community that you serve. And I think that's very important in doing so. However, we have found that there have been, or I have found that there are times where the values that we believe are the same of the district may not necessarily be the same values at a particular school. So we're wanting to find ways to make sure that DEI is embedded not only as a district expectation, But as we continue to hold each school accountable to be able to do the same and still have their same uniqueness. The one thing to understand as well is diversity, again, feels a bit like a buzzword at times, but diversity, really what it essentially is something that is represented, right? Diversity is not a process, it's truly factual. Now, whether you have that diversity present is a different story, but diversity is a fact. Each one of us being different in some way, that is a fact. Right? What we want to get to is the inclusion of the diversity. When I showed you the employment equity, it's not just saying, hey, we don't have enough Black principals across our district, so let's just go hire some Black principals across our district, or let's go hire some Black STEM teachers because we don't have enough. It's saying not only will we hire you, but as a process, we want to make sure that you feel like you belong and that we're including what you bring to the table into making BPS the best that it can be, right? And I shared this one with you as well before. We have often traditionally, and it's not a fault of BPSs in any way, it's really nationwide, where there has been this long-standing idea that, in order to really belong, like you have to first be a high achiever. Right? You have to be the one that gets the good grades. You have to be the one that may not get discipline at all. That's how you belong. But let's change that mindset and think about it this way. To be that high achiever, to be that person involved within the school, to be the person who may not be getting disciplined or whatever it may be, you want to feel first like you belong at that school, right? Or you belong with this employer, right? Those are the things that are really important. So it's allowing us as a culture shift to move to understand that if we have a high purpose, if we understand that DEIs are not just buzzwords, they're really helping to drive our culture, it truly will equal high engagement, not only for us, but also for our students. Verna Myers, I'm sure some of you are familiar with her. She quoted a very popular quote: diversity is being invited to the party, inclusion is being asked to dance. And I liked it when it came out, but I also felt like, you know what? There's a piece of this missing. And that's where you really introduce equity. So I love the picture that I put up here. This is actually from Stone Middle School. It was pre-pandemic, so that's why you don't see masks. But Stone Middle School's Club Espanol is their Spanish club, and they have a quinceañera each year, which is really exciting, and I'm looking forward to that coming back. But I showed this in particular, especially as it pertained to Verna Myers' quote, because when you think about going beyond just being asked to dance, equity says, well, does everyone know how to do the dance, right? It's saying that we're going to provide you with the practices. We're going to be understanding equity. Maybe not everybody can hear the beat the same way, whether it's maybe due to a physical disability and or maybe not. So are we going to find another way of how we're teaching this dance, or what is going to happen at this particular event to you? Do we need maybe an area that's bigger enough for somebody who may be in a wheelchair and that needs to be able to perform some of the same movements and such, but not within a confined space? So that's where equity comes in. And again, that's being meaningful in our accesses and the resources to ensure that everyone has the same outcome. So my office and or team of one right now, but my office, with everything that you've learned thus far, is really going to help support the district's efforts to close those achievement gaps and eliminate the disparities among our population, help to transform some of our employment practices from professional development, recruiting, and some other areas where we may identify where there are biases that are keeping us from being as equitable and inclusive as we need and like to be. Continuing to help our student and employee population really understand the importance at a district expectation level of respect, inclusion, and belonging. Helping to review a lot of our policies and procedures, making recommendations where necessary, implementing with each department where we can help to dismantle some disproportionality and things that we do not want to be a part of our normal culture here within the district anymore. Helping with family and community engagement, those are the things I really love doing, especially being able to listen to understand, so that way allows us to best serve. So I wanted to just take this time before we get to Q&A, and Linda, I think good.
Yeah, we're right there, but we have a couple minutes, so you can finish up, and then if you all have any questions right now that you're thinking of, you can go ahead and put them in the chat, and then we can respond that way too.
Okay, perfect. So I'll stop sharing here in a second. But one of the things I would like you all to do, if you have not had the opportunity already, is to get a better understanding of the web page for the Office of Equity and Diversity, which launched back in June. So I wanted to just walk you all through it just a little bit so you can see what's there and how to find some information. Let me reshare. Hold on one second. All right. So can you all see my screen?
Yep. Yes, we can see.
So you'll find, of course, pictures, which I love. And if there's pictures you want to share, you most definitely can do so. And I will get those up. But there's a couple of things that I just want you to be aware of. So the first thing is the Equity Act report that I mentioned that we have to share with the state. So if you're interested in just learning a little bit more about that, you'll see some of the previous reports in previous years, and then that will continue to be present each year. There's also here, which is something that is just near and dear to my heart, is how we are recognizing culture and diversity observances throughout the year. And again, this is one of those things where I said it's not just a school autonomy thing. Well, now it's really presented at a district expectation level. And even if each school cannot, maybe it's physically, financially, whatever it may be, cannot do something, at least at a district level, we are ensuring that we are embracing diversity. So you'll find different months here that are active. You can simply click on them and it'll take you to the same pages that you can find directly here. There's opportunities if you're interested in sharing your own cultural and heritage pride. I'd love to get those posted up for you. There's a couple of different ways to get there, but one is here. You'll also find resources specific to each month, maybe just a little bit of what that month is about. Maybe if there's contests or schools have shared information with me or different events, you'll find that information as well. And again, it's for various months. Various monthly observances. The other thing that I wanted to share with you is our Harry T. and Harriet V. Moore legacy, which is very exciting, something that began as a school board proclamation back in February, and it is now turning into, or has turned into, a curriculum that will go out, and I'll have some more detailed information about that when we share that as a press release. But it's curriculum that'll go across various grade levels, to include an 8th grade field trip for all of our 8th grade students to go to the Moore Memorial Museum and Park up in Mims. So that's really exciting. There is a task force team that I've been working with on this, and we're looking at not only curriculum, but professional development opportunities, supplemental activities, and we'll be monitoring that throughout each year. There's also a scholarship available each year. Our first recipient, which we just got the announcement on yesterday, earned a $3500 scholarship. I need it. Apply. $3,500 scholarship. It was a recent graduate from Rockledge High School for this first scholarship. And the last thing I want to show is just events. You'll find if there's any event hosted by my office, you'll find it here, to include the event that starts at 6 o'clock, which is our virtual open house and presentations to close up Hispanic Heritage Month, which we also have some presentations from some guest speakers to include UCF. So with that, I I am done.
That was fabulous. Yes, thank you. And I do not see any questions in the chat because you covered everything so beautifully and in depth, and we all learned so much. So does anyone want to ask Dr. McKinnon a question? Like I said, we don't have anything in the chat.
And just so you know, because I saw Abby here, thank you, Abby. If you want me to come to one of your meetings with the team that you lead at the school, I am more than happy and actually rather excited to have those opportunities. So feel free to try to get on my calendar. I'd love to, even if it's just to sit and listen and learn, and or if you wanted me to just be available for some Q&A, please let me know.
All right. Well, then, again, thank you to all of you for taking your time today to come join us. And we will look forward to our next mentor chat, which I think is going to occur. It's right here. It's going to occur in November 17th. And we are going to have April Kavanaugh on. And we are going to do some wellness and mindfulness and just do a lot of good, healthy learning for ourselves that evening. So we look forward to that on November 17th. And with that, have a great evening. And Dr. McKinnon, enjoy your event coming up too.
Thank you. You all have a good evening.
Yeah. Bye.